These are the 20 books that I want to read in the month of January, and I'm self-proclaiming that the year of 2025 is gonna be the year of 5 stars. The reason I say that is because I just know my taste so much better than I ever have, and I feel like the books that I want to read are just so my vibe. And I started like getting back into reading in 2019, and then I didn't really figure out what I liked until probably I don't know, this year probably. The year, last year, 2023, I was reading a lot of books of what other people would recommend to me, and 2024 has been the year where I've just dove into new genres, new authors, writing styles that I love and hate, and I found just exactly what I love. So now, going into 2025, I feel like I can really hone in on what I love because I know what I love, and just read more of that type of story, and I'm really excited. So I have tons of books on this TBR, and this is probably a TBR I am most excited about. I don't know if I've been as excited about a TBR as I am excited about this one. So let's get into all of the books that I want to read in January. There are 20 books that I want to read in January, and comment below the books that you guys are excited to read in January for your upcoming TBRs, because I need to know what you're reading. It's so funny because in the past I only really wanted to read cutesy fluffy romances, and now when I pull up my stack of romances that I want to read, most of them are actually the deep heartfelt reads. I think that in the past I always felt like deep heartfelt romances had to be full of trauma, and it just wasn't gonna be fun. It was just gonna be more of a chore. But I feel like the authors that I gravitate towards are authors who are writing about hard topics, but they're writing how the characters get through it, and their tactics for working through tough things. And I feel like that really is just inspiring to me, and it makes me feel okay, I can get through hard things too. So yeah, I have a wide range of books here. The first book that I really want to read, and this is probably my top romance read of what I want to get to, is Loved by You by Alexandria Lachelle. I recently talked about this in a vlog. Everyone on TikTok has been talking about how incredible this book is. This author is her debut book, first book she's ever written, but it's supposed to be a very deep, heartfelt read. It's a slow burn, and it also is a story. It says it's discover the journey of two people whose love endures time and trials, pulling them together in a way neither can resist. It's for readers who crave an authentic, slow-burning, soul-stirring romance. This is a story of resilience, family bonds, and second chances. And this just looks like a story that I'm going to absolutely devour. These, again, are the types of romances that I really want to read in 2025. I do have lots of cutesy and fluffy romances, but I have been gravitating more towards the more heartfelt romances, because I find that if I find a cutesy romance, it's very rare that even if I'm obsessed with it, it's not gonna probably be rated more than 4 stars, just because I feel like I have a hard time connecting with the characters on a deeper level because they're not going through really much of anything. The Kiss Countdown by Etta Easton is probably one of the cutesiest, fluffiest, fun reads that I read in the last year, and I rated that 4 stars. And again, if I was rating it based off of I don't know, just fluffy reads alone, if I only had those books to compare it to, then maybe it would be a 4.5 or 5 star read. But because I'm comparing that same book to other books that have just pulled my heart out, ripped it up, and just put it back together again, that book is going to be a 4 star read for me, which again is incredible for a fluffy read, because usually I feel I rate those 3 stars. But this year, going into 2025, I really want to read lots of 4 or 5 star reads. The cutesy reads, I feel again, I do enjoy, but they'll be more of a palate cleanser after I've read a ton of heavier reads. And this one looks like it's gonna be very, very deep. It says, when past wounds meet second chances, every heartbeat counts. And it's about these two characters who I'm pretty sure maybe are giving a second chance at love to each other. So I'm really excited to read this one. It's definitely on the top list of all of my reads for romance. I also want to read Losing Control by Lottie Nesha. This is a romance that so many people on TikTok have also talked about, and I think that I want to read this because the urban romances that I've been gravitating towards are such like a breath of fresh air, because what I used to use for like a palate cleanser, which was like fluffy romances, a lot of the time, like I would rate them, like I said, 3 stars, because it's like nothing is like happening, you know, like they're falling in love, like it's cute and it's fun, but like sometimes it would get like a little stale and like I'd hear a lot of the same stories. Whereas urban romance, I feel like it's now become my new palate cleanser, because I'm reading stories that like are just absolutely off the wall. Things happen that I would never ever ever be able to even imagine in my brain. So it kind of like shakes up like what the romance genre was to me in the past, which at times like it would feel a little predictable, which is something I've always enjoyed. But again, romance being my favorite genre will be something that never gets boring to me, because I know that there are so many sub-genres of like different types of romance that I can lean into, and this is one of them. This is about this guy who's like a bad boy, and I think that like Marley comes into his life and she's like went through like a lot of tragedy in her life, and he's a walking red flag. It says together they're destined for emotional turmoil, and just when they have it all figured out, the duo learns that the past has a sneaky way of preying on the future. So it's a very thick book, but so many people who've read it on TikTok have read it very quickly, so I feel like I probably will too. And the partner plot by Christina Forrest is a fluffy read that I'm adding into my like reads, because I read The Neighbor Favor by this author and I rated it 4.5 out of 5 stars. Very cutesy, very fun. I feel like the partner plot, so many people have loved this book even more than The Neighbor Favor, which is like, that book was super cute. So I feel like this is a book that I definitely want to read, and again, will be a great palate cleanser. It says 2 former high school sweethearts get a second chance in this marriage of convenience romance. And I'm pretty sure there's like a fake marriage, or like maybe they accidentally get married. Like there's some kind of marriage something, or I mean, obviously it says marriage of convenience on it, but this just looks like it'll be fun, different than what I normally have read. Like it's not the same tropes that I've read over and over again. I haven't read a lot of marriage of convenience. I also want to read From Luke Off with Love, because I've never read a book by Mariana Zapata, and I put so many books by Mariana Zapata on my TBR. If you've read anything by Mariana Zapata, or if you've read all of her books, please comment below your favorite, because I actually own so many, because I love slow burns, like absolutely love slow burns. But I think because these are so thick, I'm literally scared, and I want to give the author the best option for me to like fall in love with their books, because I own so many of their books. I'm pretty sure I own like 4 of their books, just because I love slow burn, and I know that Mariana Zapata is the queen of slow burn. So I'm excited to read this one. It's about a figure skater. It says if someone were to ask Jasmine Santos to describe the last few years of her life with a single word, it would definitely be a 4-letter one. After 17 years and countless broken bones and broken promises, she knows her window to compete in figure skating is coming to a close. But when the offer of a lifetime comes in from an arrogant idiot she spent the last decade dreaming about, pushing in the way of a moving bus, Jasmine might have to reconsider everything. And yeah, that, I mean, is the premise of the story. It's like 500 pages, so again, she's a thick one. So if you think that there's another book that I should read first by the author, let me know. I just figured this would be nice because it's giving winter vibes, and this is gonna be the time I'll gravitate more towards this specific story. Another book I wanna read is Southern Storms by Brittany Cherry. I've been reading a book by Brittany Cherry pretty much every single month, and it has been so good for me, because anytime I read a book that I'm just kind of like, it's okay, I pick up a book by Brittany Cherry, because immediately I am excited about reading again. Brittany Cherry's books hit every single time. Every single one of her books, I almost always rate 4 stars. Like, I have rated, I think, 1 book by her less than 4 stars. I can't see myself, and I'm not saying that that's not the case, like that it will never happen, but I can't really see myself rating one of her books 5 stars. Only because I feel like I miss just a tad bit of like the depth in the writing that I usually look for. Again, her stories are incredible, her writing is incredible, but I feel like there's just like a little something missing. But I have been reading a lot of her older books, and so with her new book coming out next year, I'm hoping that that's gonna be the book that just like really just sends it over the top for me. But I want to read Southern Storms, and it says, I love your broken pieces because it shows that you've lived. It shows that you're brave enough to give yourself to the world, no matter how hard it can be sometimes. Again, these books were written like a while ago. A lot of them just have new covers. They definitely give like that crying in the rain, like Lifetime, Hallmark, spicy romance. You know what I mean? And I guess not all of them are spicy, because reading The Silent Waters and The Gravity of Us, I feel like neither of those was like super spicy. Like I went through a large part of the book and there wasn't like a ton of spice. There were spicy scenes in it, but it wasn't like full of spice, you know what I mean? And the mixtape wasn't super spicy. So I guess she does have like a lot of different types of books that have like ranges of spice, but I feel like her books have so much depth in the sense of like, you feel like the characters are soulmates. It's fast paced. Something happens. Like there's a car crash. Someone's in the hospital. Someone's in a coma. Like, you know, stuff like that. Like you just never know what's coming. So anytime I'm just kind of feeling like, reading's a little stale. This is the type of book that I fall into. I've never been into a book slump, and it's genuinely because anytime I feel a book slump coming on, which I know what it feels like, never been in one, but I can feel it coming, and I will literally gravitate towards some of my favorite authors like Brittany Cherry, Octavia Grant, authors who have very, very fast-paced writing and bingeable types of books. So this is actually in a series, but the 4 books in the Compass series are all standalone, so you don't have to read them in order. Similar to the, I think it's called the Element series, which I just finished with Brittany Cherry. And I also want to read, and then there was Passion by Asia Monique. This book came out this year, and I read And Then Life Was Beautiful by this author. Ate it freaking up, rated 4.5 out of 5 stars. There was something about that book that I was obsessed with. I feel like a large part of why I love that was because it was my first pregnancy trope book. I thought that I wouldn't like it, and so many people were like, oh, like I hate the pregnancy trope. I love it. I absolutely eat it up. So I'm really excited for this one. I think that this is about the main character from And Then Life Was Beautiful. It's his sister, June. It's her story. And this character named Calix. So I don't even really know a ton of what it's about, but I kind of just want to go into it a bit blind. It just came out. It's a shorter read, and I feel like sometimes I can spoil the story a bit if I read too much with a book that's only like 240 pages. So excited for this one. Pardon My Frenchie by Farrah Roshan is another romance that I can't wait to read. Again, there are not all romances here, but I want to share romances first because that's my favorite genre. It says, these enemies have a few new tricks to learn about falling in love. It's about a dog walker, and I think the person who is the dog walker, or no, they have a doggy daycare. I think that maybe they need like help or something. And yeah, it just looks like it's gonna be a cute read. Like I am adding in a few of these reads because I do want to try new authors. I think that that's gonna be the biggest reason why I read like a fluffy, cutesy read, because I don't want to like count out all authors. And I've never actually read anything by Farrah Roshan. I've read Fake It Till You Bake It for the first time. Not for the first time, that's a silly thing to say. I read Fake It Till You Bake It, and the author was it was her first book that I ever read of hers. And it was this year. Again, fluffy, cutesy read by Jamie Wesley. And then I love that book, and I read Legend in the Baking, rated at 4 stars. And that book came out this year. And then I also read Etta Easton's book, The Kiss Countdown. Again, 4 stars, fluffy, cutesy read. So it's not that it's not possible for me to find 4-star reads or like just highly rated or loved reads by fluffy, cutesy books, but I don't want to like keep reading the same author and the same types of books when I feel like there's so many other authors that I could try. I guess I'll say that. So I haven't read anything by her. Really excited for this one. I feel like this will be the type of book that I'll read when I want to be in like a happy mood, maybe when it's like super gloomy outside. And I also want to read Something in My Heart by Kimberly Brown. This is a book that everybody has said is great. And this looks like it's going to be messy, I think. I think it's because this girl, Halani, it says she experienced a shocking and devastating loss at 6 months pregnant. She loses the child she's carrying, and it turns her world upside down. And then Onyx, who's her boyfriend of 3 years, I think they like get pulled away from each other, because like she's grieving and like he's struggling, and in that, while like they're kind of having this disconnect, Hendrix, who is Onyx's brother, kind of steps in, and so you see her have this like love triangle between the two. So it says, will Onyx get it together? Will Helani and Hendrix be able to fight their newfound feelings, or will the weight of their worlds cause everything to come crashing down? Again, messy, absolutely messy. And these are the types of books that I've been really loving this year, and I think it's because I'll usually read like a heavy, sad, like, you know, all this depth, like a book like that, and then I'll read something like this and I'm like, oh, life is fun. Like, life is fun because these books are fun and reading is fun. Like, things that get me excited about reading are usually these types of books. I also want to read Where We Found Our Heart. I've actually been holding on to this one for a while because this is the last book by Natasha Bishop that I haven't read. I've read all of her books. They're all incredible. I've rated all of them 4 stars, and this one, Where We Found Our Heart, is the second book in the series. I actually read the 3rd book first, which is Where We Found Our Passion. Then I went back to the beginning of the series and read Where We Found Our Home, which is the 1st book in the series. So now I'm reading the 2nd book, and I also have read Only for the Weak by this author. So she has 4 books that are out. If you haven't read anything of hers, please pick up one of her books. They're so fast-paced, so enjoyable to read. But this one, obviously, you can see on the front, there's like a pregnancy trope in it. I don't need to know much else about it. I feel like when I read And Then Life is Beautiful by Asia Monique, I realized I love the pregnancy trope and I want to read more books with that trope in it. So excited to read this one. I've been, again, holding off on this one for a while, just because I have not wanted to be done with her books, and she doesn't have a new book like being planned to be released that isn't like just a book with a new cover. Like Only for the Weak is being released, but it has a new cover, and I've already read that book, so excited for that. Now let's get into the historical fiction. I have a bunch of historical fictions that I want to read, and 2 thrillers. So these are the historical fictions. I have the thrillers and historical fictions together. The first one that I want to read is Homegoing. Everyone has said that this book is incredible, and I've actually made a few like TikToks and reels sharing the books that I've hauled with historical fiction as a genre, and I'll always ask like, which should I read first? Like, which one do you guys think is gonna be the best? And everyone says this one. Everyone is like, read Homegoing, read Homegoing. And this one's so short, I feel like I'll finish it really fast. It's under 300 pages. I've never read anything by this author, so it is a little daunting because as I flip through it, there isn't a ton of dialogue. So if you've read this, comment below and let me know how you feel about it. Anytime you guys have read a book that I'm about to read and you're like, oh my God, I loved it, like you're gonna be obsessed with it, like these are the things that were my favorite things, like it gets me excited to read the book and push it up even further on my TBR as like one of the books I read first. So really excited for this one. Don't exactly know what it's about. It says Homegoing follows the parallel paths of these sisters and their descendants through 8 generations, from the Gold Coast to the plantations of Mississippi, from the American Civil War to the Jazz Age Harlem. It says the author's extraordinary novel illuminates slavery's troubled legacy, both for those who were taken and those who stayed, and shows how the memory of captivity has been inscribed on the soul of our nation. So this will be interesting because it not only talks about like one time period, it talks about multiple different historical time periods. I also want to read The House of Eve. This is by the author who wrote Yellow Wife, and I read that, loved it, like just such an incredible story. And this is actually the one that most people talk about reading first, and I'm obviously reading it second because I'm the type of person who, if people talk about a book and then say if they loved it, I have to read another book by that author first. I don't know what it is, I just do. I feel like I put too much, like, I hold a book on too high of like a pedestal when everyone says it's great, and so I need to know that I like the author's writing before I actually get into the book that everyone's obsessed with. But this looks like a great story. I don't know what it's about. It's about Ruby and Eleanor, and it's in the 1950s. And the Washington Post said that this is a historical fiction, a triumph, and affecting and arresting exploration of young Black womanhood and motherhood in the mid-20th century. And on the back, Reese Witherspoon said, amazing. I was completely surprised by the ending of this beautifully told and written book. Taylor Jenkins Reid, who I also love, said that this is a heart-trending story, and there's so many other like incredible accolades about this, but I've also heard so many of you have said that this is great. So again, if you've read this, please let me know. Let me know. I need to know. I also want to read Black, and this is a story that is not only historical, like has historical elements, but it also has like romance elements in it as well. So it's like a historical romance. It literally says in the back, Black shares the appealing tale of a passionate love between a man and a woman bound together to change their destiny. And it is in 1831, and it like details a lot of slavery. So I'm really excited for this one as well. I feel like I've been leaning into historical fiction just because it's made me just so like, obviously more knowledgeable, but like it is so incredible to like read more about the history that we are now continuing to live. You know, like when we look back on right now, like this, we are living in history, like all of us are. And whether we think that something that's happening like right now is important or not, like we will never know, because years later, like they, you know, it might be like a historical thing that like changed the whole trajectory of our entire planet, and you just never know. So like it's cool to read these stories just to like see our history and like just know more about it. I also have these two thrillers, which I have been someone who's always been obsessed with thrillers, and I feel like I used to just read romances and thrillers, and I have been kind of pulling back on thrillers and reading only like 1 or 2 a month, just because I have never found a 5-star thriller. And I don't know, I don't know if I ever will, but one of you guys, not actually one of you guys, a lot of you guys actually said I should read Kill for Me, Kill for You, because I said that I hadn't found a 5-star thriller. I did read Grey After Dark, and that was a book that I rated very highly. I rated it 4 stars, which I also, again, don't usually rate thrillers 4 stars, because it's hard to connect with the characters. It's hard to connect with the characters, and if I don't connect with the characters, then it's hard for me to rate highly. But you can't really connect with the characters when you don't know who the villain is. So Grey After Dark, I think, was great. Rated that one 4 stars, and I just haven't rated a ton of thrillers super highly. Oh my gosh, I'm yawning. I know so many of you guys hate when I yawn, but like I am a working woman, and your girl's doing her best. So I never want to edit out the yawns, because I am just like a human. Like I'm literally just a regular person and not a robot. So hopefully that doesn't bother you too much when you guys see it, but I always think about it every time that I yawn now, because so many of you guys have been like, oh my god, Shaughnessy yawns so much, like, but this book right here is one of you guys' favorites, and a lot of your favorites actually. The author who wrote The Silent Patient on the front wrote Unguessable and Unputdownable, and I think that this is Steve Kavanaugh's newest book, I'm pretty sure. It says, she will kill your worst enemy, all you have to do is kill hers. And this is supposed to be like one of those types of thrillers that's like messes with your mind. And whenever I literally said I hadn't found a 5-star thriller, so many of you guys are like, pick this one up. So I'm like, bet, I trust you guys. Like, you guys have great recommendations. And of course, I have to put in a book by Lucinda Berry, because Lucinda Berry is an author who I've read like 4 of her thrillers, and I feel like I come back to her thrillers when I know I want something that I'm going to enjoy. All of her books for me have been like 3.5, 4 stars, like really good thrillers, and I always just come back to them because they're very fast paced. Usually can't like guess the plot. Again, just very good. And this says, for eager adoptive parents, getting what they always wanted has chilling consequences. And she is like a psychiatrist, or used to be, or something like that. And she always writes about like the wildest stories. And sometimes I'm like, did this happen? Like, did somebody tell you this? Because like these sometimes are a little spot on, but I've read so many of her books and love them. And then this was the year for me that not only did I get into historical fiction, not only did I get into deeper like romances that have like really heartfelt stories, I got into contemporary fiction, and I am never letting it go. So I have a huge stack of contemporary fiction, and I also want to read all of these books I'm so excited about, which if you had asked me a year ago if I would ever be like excited to read contemporary fiction, I would probably be like, absolutely not. I was an English literature major, and I feel like I read so much contemporary fiction, literary fiction, that I got so burned out. And I think in college, it's honestly like a travesty that so many people are told to read so much at one time if you're like just studying, because it kind of takes the fun away from it, because you know you have to finish something by a deadline. And so it makes you have to like read when you don't want to read. Like maybe you have other things you want to do first, and you just like, it makes you want to read when you don't want to read, and also read books that you don't want to finish. Like you can't really DNF. And so like I have never been someone who's DNF'd, but I definitely have been someone who has spark noted. Like I literally won't even pick up the book, and I just like spark note the whole thing. And I just feel like that in college was like my go-to, and that's what took me out of reading. It literally made me want to not like read anything ever again. I'm so glad I did end up getting back into reading. But I will say with contemporary fiction, I am a little more nervous as I get into books, because I don't want anything to like turn me off of the genre. Like I want to read books that I enjoy. And so I have been very, very careful about what I've picked up. So many people will be like, read this, read that. And I'm like, okay, is there dialogue? I want a hint of romance or something. Like, you know, I do feel like I kind of know my type. And again, that's why I feel like the year of 2025 is the year of 5-star for me, because I know myself so well. Beartown by Friedrich Backman is a book that I'm really excited to read. Is it a little dense? Yes. Like, do I wish there was a little bit more dialogue in this? Yes. But do I think that the storyline is going to be something that I won't want to put down? 1,000,000%. Everyone who has read this book has loved it. And so many people who have read books that think like very similarly about like their, you know, book recommendations or like books that they love have loved this book. Like, I just feel like if they love it and we have similar taste, then I will also love this book. I know that this is about it says this is a story about a town and a game. I guess I could just read part of the book. On the back it says, but even more about loyalty, commitment, and the responsibilities of friendship, the people we disappoint even though we love them, and the decisions we make every day that come to define us. In this story of a small forest town, Friedrich Backman has found the entire world. I have read Anxious People by this author and didn't like it, but I think that Anxious People is different than this one. Anxious People felt a little quirky. It just wasn't my taste, but this one seems like it's gonna be a little bit more serious, which is like what I'm really wanting. Post-Traumatic is a book by a Black author that is looking like it's going to be a very deep read. I have been on the hunt for contemporary fiction by Black authors that is like, has depth, and like reading Blue Sisters. Obsessed, loved it, you know what I mean? And it's like so many people have read books by Coco Mellors, so I kind of knew to pick up that book, you know? And I feel like so many people have read books by Friedrich Backman. So again, knew to pick up this book. I have been picking up books by Black authors in the contemporary fiction genre, just not even knowing, like, just the vibe, like, do people like it? Like, and not that I have to read books that only people like, but because I'm so new to this genre, I do want to, like, pick up bangers, you know? So I picked up this book, and I'm really excited about it. It says it's a debut of a stunning talent featuring a complex heroine who is blazingly I can read it, I promise. Indelibly alive. With razor sharp prose and mordant wit, Chantal V. Johnson performs an extraordinary feat, delivering a psychologically astute story about the aftermath of trauma that somehow manages to brim with warmth, laughter, and hope. This was on Oprah's like best books of the month. Again, if you have recommendations for books by Black authors in contemporary fiction that give like the vibe of like, I'm trying to think, you know, just like depth, but like they have like a hint of romance, or have like, you know, hints of family, or maybe a little drama and mess, like, but it's gonna make you like introspective. Let me know, because I want to read more of those. And this is why I talk so heavily about books by Black authors for like romance genre, because when I was looking for those books, I couldn't find them. Like, I genuinely couldn't. So now I create content specifically for that on like TikTok and Instagram. But now that I'm getting into other genres, like historical fiction, I had to ask you guys, like, what are historical fiction books? Like, cause I cannot find them. And like, they don't have their own tables at Barnes, and they don't have their own sections where people are raving about them, and they're not like front of mind in bookstores. And if you don't know what to look for, you can easily miss them. So I, you know, now that I'm diving into contemporary fiction, I'm finding that I just cannot find books by Black authors in this genre that are like front and center. So this one was one that I found. I have heard great things about it. I can't remember where I found it. If it was on like TikTok or I can't remember, but I'm really excited to read this one. I also want to read Perfect Peace. I don't know if this is contemporary fiction or historical fiction, I can't remember, but this is also by a Black author, and so many people have said that this book is great. I don't even really know a ton of what this is about. I think that this is about a mom who has like 7 kids, and I think they're all boys, and wanted a daughter, and so she kind of like makes that her reality. It says that this is a story that, it says meanwhile, the Peace family is forced to question everything they thought they knew about gender, sexuality, unconditional love, and fulfillment. So really excited to read this because everyone I know has read it and really enjoyed it. And I think that Daniel Black has supposed to be like very deep writing. So yeah, excited about this one. I feel like I keep saying excited about this one, but I'm excited about all of them. I also want to read The Most Fun We Ever Had. This is supposed to be a book that you will love if you liked the show This Is Us, which I loved. And I also loved reading Blue Sisters, and I think reading stories about family, sisterhood, like just, I don't know, loving people that you have in your family and all of the complexities of that, I feel like I am really gravitating towards those. So this is a book that I feel like will be great. It is told in the 1970s, I think. No. It says when Marilyn Connolly and David Sorensen fall in love in the 1970s, they're ignorant of all that awaits them. By 2016, their 4 radically different daughters are in a state of unrest. And it talks about all the different daughters and how different they are. One's widowed, one's a litigator stay-at-home mom, or litigator turned stay-at-home mom, who has anxiety, battles self-doubt. One, she's neurotic, and she's a newly tenured professor, finds out she's pregnant with a baby she's not sure she wants by a man she's not sure she loves. There's just so much family drama in this, but just like the reality of family, and I am really excited to read this one. It does look like a long one, but I feel like it'll be good. I also want to read Jaded by Ella Lee. This is by a British-Turkish author, and this is a book that I've heard great things about. I think that it talks about abuse and working through your trauma after abuse, so definitely keep that in mind if you're planning on reading this. It says that it's for fans of Queenie and I May Destroy You, and I feel like this one will be really, really great to read. Queenie is also one that I'm thinking about adding to my TBR because that is a contemporary fiction that is like having bits of romance and stuff in it. So let me know if you think that I should add that to my TBR. I'm not 100% sure if I want to yet or not, but I'm thinking about it. I do own Queenie, so it wouldn't be hard for me to add it to my TBR, but it's also a newer purchase, so like I've been trying to kind of, I don't know, not just like buy and then read that specific book that I just got. I mean, I guess it's fine. It's like, it doesn't really matter like in what order I read. But I also want to read Stay With Me, and this is a book that is like a very interesting story. It's about a woman who's been hoping for a miracle for a child. She's always wanted a child, and I guess that she's been like struggling to make that happen. It says, unraveling against the social and political turbulence of 1980s Nigeria, Stay With Me is a story of the fragility of married love, the undoing of family, the power of grief, and the all-consuming bonds of motherhood. It's a tale about the desperate attempts we make to save ourselves and those we love from heartbreak. And the woman, it says that she's hoping for a child, for a miracle. It is all her husband wants, all her mother-in-law wants, and she has tried everything. But when her relatives insist upon a new wife, it is too much for her to bear. So this just looks like a really unique story. Again, it's by a Black author who, it says that this got the Women's Prize for Fiction, or was shortlisted for it, and this was in the contemporary fiction section as well. So again, if you have read any of these books and love them, comment below. If you have historical fiction or contemporary fiction books recs by Black authors that you think I should read, let me know. I feel like I have a good gauge of books to read in those genres by other authors, like that I haven't you know, read from before, because you guys know I just read really books by anyone, but specifically Black authors I found are so hard to find in bookstores, and you can't just search like on, you know, bookstores or booksellers stores like books by Black authors and historical fiction. You know what I mean? You have to know the title of a book, and if you don't know the title of a book, you can't find the book. So like Kristen Hanna, you know, I just know lots of different authors that I feel like are so like hyped up and I know are incredible, but I'm really still looking for those authors that I feel like I can resonate with in a different way, and I can also share with you guys if I love them. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed this little TBR. I'm so excited for January because I feel like it's truly gonna be my best reading year yet, and I just have honed in on what I love more than I ever have, and that makes me so excited. So comment below what you're reading, what you're planning on reading for January, what's exciting you for the new year, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye guys.